有朋自远方来. It's a joyful thing to share common goals, to share common ideas. The West needs to build a better perspective on China.
Mr. Famularo, a pleasure to have you on CGTN.
It's my pleasure to be here.
In your research of cultural exchange between China and the West, what type of Chinese culture or cultural elements are more easily communicated to a Western audience, to an audience in Italy in particular?
In the West, we were used to think that we had reached the most perfect political system possible, and that this should be accepted all over the world. The world is changing again, and this idea is no longer believable. And China is exactly showing this. China's way of modernization is showing to the world that a different system is possible. And I think this aspect is exactly what it's mostly relevant to Italians, to Europeans at the present moment. Then besides this, we also, in Chinese tradition, we can find also many other elements, such as the idea of harmony, the idea of relationship between the human and nature. Nowadays, the world is facing a huge challenge, that is the environmental protection, environmental crisis. Chinese tradition can give us a lot of stimuli, a lot of ideas to think about while facing this problem.
What about Italian culture? I mean, the Chinese already love many parts of the Italian culture. We're talking about architecture, literature, and paintings from Renaissance, Italian fashion among some of the symbols there. Do you wish that the Chinese could get to know more about the Italian culture, and what part of the Italian culture?
Of course, I wish so. Italy is like one of the cradles of Western civilization. Getting to know better Italian culture also means to know a deeply Western culture as a whole. Western culture is also very, very diverse, but when we think about topics such as legal tradition or history of institutions such as universities, Italy is where somehow it all started. For Chinese, it would be very useful to learn more about these aspects of Italian culture and Italian history.
In the academic field, how do we encourage more young people in Italy and in Europe to take up an interest in China, in Chinese cultures? What type of programs should we have ready for them?
Exchange programs such as the one I joined are the perfect way. In Europe now, I think our main problem is that we are very ignorant about China. This has historical tradition. Till the 17th century, when we talked about philosophy, we would always start from the East. There was this change during the 19th century in which European thinkers would start to say philosophy starts with the Greeks, and Chinese tradition will be taught in language departments. And the situation has never changed, basically. Now we need, like everyone needs to know, to have a more global view over history, over literature, over philosophy, and this needs to include China as well. Exchange programs giving more people the chance to come to China and maybe getting to experience this kind of system of knowledge can help to promote a change in the West as well.
You touched upon this just now, where you said that in the West, sometimes people struggle to understand how different China is. But you also said that the Chinese model and the Chinese path, the Chinese approach to things, has been successful and should be acknowledged. Why do you think that the China stories and the China narratives, the China perspectives sometimes are met with so much bias and so much difficulty to be understood in the West?
In my opinion, the West needs to build a better perspective on China. Like what it's like in the West is knowledge about China. So they would just try to give simple answer to very complicated questions. And they would choose answers that are quite reassuring. Like everyone, when he sees something different that he doesn't understand, he would just say, oh, that thing is bad, I am the good one. Okay. What we need to build is a better understanding, but a better understanding cannot simply be imposed. What we need to do is to provide Western people with the right tools to understand China. But the understanding of China is something that they should make. At the moment, I'm working on manuscripts by a French missionary in China called Bouvet, and he wrote quite much about ancient Chinese tradition, specifically the I Ching. He wanted to find in Chinese tradition some sort of prophetic revelation of the Christ. So it's very religious work. But by doing this, he also studied Chinese mathematics, Chinese astronomy, more scientific aspects of Chinese culture. By the work of this thinker, we can see how he had a very high esteem of Chinese tradition. He would not consider a Western literary tradition to be superior to Chinese traditions.
Before I let you go, is there maybe a Chinese saying that has inspired you the most, that you think about the most often?
有朋自远方来. The saying from the Analects of Confucius is usually translated, it's a very happy, joyful thing to have friends who come from far away. If we look at the ancient Chinese, pong doesn't mean friend. It's something more, someone who studied from the same teacher. It's something more, someone who shares common values with you. So I think this idea is very interesting, that it's a joyful thing to share common goals, to share common ideas, to share moral principles with people all over the world.
Mr. Famularo, we thank you for your time, and may you make many Peng who share the same vision, the same goals, and the same inspiration as you continue with your research here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.